All right. Cloud Imperium deciding to remove Delamar. Yes, that's right. They're removing Delamar. And not really removing, right? Soviets, right. One of my favorite comments from Spectrum was a guy who commented and posted, "But I was dating a hot dog vendor there. Where will she go?" I thought that was wonderful when I read that on Spectrum. And I have my own reasons why they did this, and it's not a bad thing. There's a lot of misinformation out there as far as why Cloud Imperium took Delamar out of Stanton, which it didn't belong to in the first place. It's not even part of that system. And it's kind of refreshing for me that I don't have to explain to people that Delamar really isn't part of Stanton, that it really goes to Nyx, and Nyx isn't in the game yet. And, it's kind of refreshing to me in a way. I will miss Levski, but in my mind, and this is without really diving too deep into it, when we were talking earlier in December about needing one important factor this year, stability, we were saying it over and over again. We will say it. That is the word. That is the word that we all must say over and over and over again in 2021. Stability. You're starting to see it. In this most recent patch, I'm not getting as many 30Ks. I'm having longer stays. I think maybe, and this is an uneducated guess here, but I think maybe it has to do with the fact that they're going to eventually be taking out certain assets, object containers in the game, perhaps making it take more time to load. When you have more assets, you have more server load. I understand these things don't come into view until you're around them, but perhaps taking that strain away from the system will give us more stability. What's up, Red? Welcome to the stream. And that is a very uneducated guess on why I think they're doing it initially, is to give us some more stability, longer periods of gameplay. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think they're trying to find ways to give us this stability. And I think that we will, in fact, be getting a system coming up this year for CitizenCon. We discussed that on a prior DG in the Morning video. We looked at the roadmap. We saw what it had said, that there were areas that were labeled something of like to be announced. That it was right around CitizenCon. It had to do with planets, had to do with systems. Jeff says, that true stability will not happen without tech upgrades to their backend services. Right. And we can talk about Amazon Web Services or AWS in the strain. And we talk about that plenty, Jeff. And I talk about my concerns with AWS. I have serious concerns. That is why stability is a word that we must talk about. Because people say, well, we're not ready for that yet. Why would you even talk about that? DJ, how dare you? Well, let me just tell you guys in 2016, 2017, when I was talking about performance and optimization. Remember those words? Remember those keywords we were talking about before OCS, before object container streaming? And I was saying ridiculously over and over again that the two keywords in those years was performance and optimization. People laughed at me then. Then we saw OCS hit the way that it did, at least on the client side, and it helped us. It improved our frames per second. DG, how dare you? Right. Now I'm saying stability. Now I'm saying stability, and that is going to be highly debated. That is going to be highly contested. People are going to be like, DG doesn't know what he's talking about. Why would he even focus on stability? That doesn't happen till afterwards. He doesn't understand game design. I understand a hell of a lot more than I did in 2015 in terms of game design. And let me tell you something about selling a successful title and making money and keeping a project going. There has to be some level of stability so that people come back. It's called replayability. It's talking about keeping the people, retaining the gamers that play the game. And that's very important. So stability is important. And it should be something that we say. Stability. Let's watch this by Morphologis and his reasonings behind the removal of Delamar.
For many, Delamar and Milevsky.
The volume's a little too high on this. Sorry, Morph, we got to turn you down just a touch.
Were the first landing zone you got to experience when you started playing the verse for the first time, which is why it may sadden you to learn that 3.12.1 will see its removal. Hey guys, I'm Morphologis, and in this video I'm going to go over why they're removing it and why this has huge implications for 2021's development year. And I'm going to warn you right now, if you came to this video hoping to leave a bit optimistic, what I'm going to tell you here is probably not going to leave you with the best feeling. But I promise you it's
Have a
the
good
truth,
day, Rad.
and that it's not necessarily a bad thing for Star Citizen for this year. So without further ado, let's break the bad news, and if you like this video by the end, which you might not, at least consider hitting that like button if you think I deserve it, because it does take me time to put these together, and every little bit of support helps me out. So officially, in lore, Delamar actually belongs in the Nyx system and is one of its only landing zones, so it was never meant to actually be in the Stanton system once Stanton was completed. According to CIG, it was only put in the Stanton system because it was a smaller scale landing zone that they could work out rather quickly as compared to the other planets, which required a lot more work with their planet tech that was not yet ready at the time. The idea was that eventually, after it was completely fleshed out, they would get it ready to pack up and put into the Nyx system when the Nyx system was ready to go. And so this day was always coming. The only strange thing is that it's coming right now, but it is no coincidence. CIG also posted on the forums why they've decided to remove it at this time, and the second reason, aside from the lore-based reason, was to free up resources on the server. Now, if you've
Boom! This is exactly what I was talking about from the very beginning. To free up resources, less object containers to load. Boom. Do I know what I'm talking about? Maybe a little bit. Maybe I understand game development.
not been playing Star Citizen 3.12 or even 3.11, then you might not know how bad the servers and desyncing has become. According to numerous posts by CIG, the reasons for this are very simple. There are a limited amount of resources that they're able to spare on a given server to the entities within the server, and this includes players as well as what they're doing with their ships and how many entities they're actually spawning during things like big fights. Many technologies were developed to combat this and try to make the servers a lot more efficient, such as object container streaming and server-side object container streaming, which effectively take entities on the server's memory and stream them out when a player is not present and stream them back in when they are. This is taking that stuff off of the server memory completely and putting it into a more stable form of storage, like a fast SSD, and then taking it off that SSD and putting it back onto the server memory when the player reapproaches. It was actually this important technology that enabled ArcCorp and Microtech to exist on the servers. Without it, CIG stated, it just would not be able to happen with the current server's memory.
And into that, let me comment here because, you know, Red's like, DG, can you see the future of this game? Soviets like, I can't, it's beautiful. Let me say something about this. There is so much support behind this. There is so much support behind this title. It has stood the wherewithal, the beatings, the negative comments, all the negativity. It has withstood it. It is still here after all these years, continually improving. Some people would say that it's just going to be in perpetual limbo as it continually upgrades the back end and, I understand. It's still here. I got in late at the end of 2015. 16 might as well be 16. 6 years later, I'm still here. I'm still interested. It continually gets better. It has its issues, but I will still support it. why else would I focus so much content on Star Citizen? This is something that truly interests me. This is something that is really a fun thing to be a part of. I love the people. I love the community for the most part. I love what the game's trying to do. Is it being managed correctly in a business sense? I think there's some areas where it could be helped, and I talk about that quite often. But let me tell you, I am very, very positive about all of this because we are seeing crazy, crazy support in terms of the numbers, and it comes down to amazing revenues. The revenues have not dipped at all. They continually go up and up and up and up and up and up. It's what Chris and Cloud Imperium, the business, do with that I'm concerned, and that's why I focus on financials. But that does not mean that I'm worried right now. I'm slightly worried as terms of expenses. Like the expense column needs to be looked at. I talk about that on a prior video. You guys can check it on the channel where I talk about the financials and why I'm slightly concerned about that expense column. And I want to see what's going to happen with the profit and loss with the P&L for 2020's the year of 2020, which doesn't even come out till the end of this year. But that's going to be a very big marker. This one was as well. 2019's P&L was also a very big indication of the fact that I am correct in terms of being concerned about what they're doing in their expense column. So I really want to follow it up with the 2020 P&L that we'll get at the very end of next year. Thank you so much, Razor, for those bits, dude. Thank you. You can get all the information you need in that video, Fets, if you're wondering what it is. But it's a quite lengthy, in-depth video on my channel talking about the P&L, about 2019's P&L.
But these, of course, don't even take into account all the stuff that we're supposed to eventually have on Planet and Moon services, like more cave variations, homesteads, harvestables, player-owned territory, player-owned space stations, NPCs flying to and from Planet and Moon surfaces, and the list goes on. But this technology was only ever going to go so far, and CIG knew this from the get-go, and that's why server meshing has always been one of the most important features to get online. Now, the really big question that many of us who have been following the project have had is how long is this technology going to last before server meshing becomes an absolute necessity before they can move forward?
And the next question that should be asked is it even possible to create the technology of server meshing? Because it's rather innovative, it's a great idea, but can it actually be done? Thank you, Red. Thank you, dude. Thank you for your patronage, and thank you for enjoying the content, man. I love having you here, man.
Going back to the desyncing,
we are already at this point. Soviet, you're absolutely right, dude. We're right there. That's why they're taking out Delamar. That is such a really good point, Soviet. That is such a really good point, man. We're already there. I absolutely believe that too as well, Soviet. You're spot on, dude. As usual, spot on, dude.
311 since Invictus, many of us had speculated that we have already kind of seen the limit and that CIG were going to have to do something soon to try to amend the problem in order for the game to be playable. But this was...
Kilo? Yes, OB, how you doing, man? Thank you. Thank you so much, man. You know, the interesting thing is that like Shikuku saying, what's up, Shikuku? Sorry, I didn't see you, bro. The question is not if it can be done. It exists in various forms. The question is, will it deliver the experience they want? Kind of disagree with you on that one, Shikuku, just because yes and no. I could get in depth with it, but I don't want to get into like a 30-minute discussion of that. That seems like it should be a podcast right there. Shikuku, Shikuku always brings these things up that I want to actually talk about for like an hour. Red Bear says, besides that, if you want have optimal performance, otherwise you still wait. Red Bear says, besides that, you want to have optimal performance, otherwise you still need a shit ton of servers to have 1,000 people in one space. Absolutely, because we all want the most amount of people that we can in our experience. Jeff says that question is paramount. I've not seen one network engineer say it is possible in the form that SC needs. We can't move forward without developing new technology, says Soviet. I absolutely agree, Soviet. DG, is it too early or are we super late on this point? You know, I think we're right on time. Oh, is it buffering? Are we okay? Are we okay now? What's up, Dark? Welcome to the stream, dude.
It's just mere speculation with no confirmation from anybody in official channels. Some optimistically hope that server meshing and iCache were just around the corner and it would fix all of these problems, while some of us who were maybe a little bit more cynical kind of quietly suspected that they may need to start removing content in order to move forward. And so you've probably put the pieces together by now. The highly anticipated Xenothreat event is going to be adding a lot of entities and inducing a lot of fighting on the servers, which clearly the servers cannot handle. Which means that the only way to free up resources is to remove content.
Take some away.
And that is exactly...
God, we have been saying this for a very long time. I think, you know, when we hear Morpheus talk about this, our community specifically, and it's good to be a little bit cynical because that's where sometimes it's a great way to find the truth of the matter. Everything is not lollipops and rainbows. You understand? It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just we're trying to get to the root of it. So, you know, to me, taking away Delamar is not a bad thing. We didn't really take it away. It wasn't really supposed to be part of that system, and hence, it's a pretty good move for Cloud Imperium because they're like, hey, it doesn't even belong in this system anyway. And it takes a shit ton of objects containers to out the assets out of the game. They don't have to be loaded, and will free up a lot of resources in terms of like what the server is capable of doing now is going to be a hell of a lot more. And in lieu of those objects, they will now insert Xenothreat objects. But again, it doesn't get down to the root of the issue, which is what Soviet said. The time is now. We are right here where we need to talk about server meshing. Dynamic server meshing, actually. And there's a great video done here on the channel. One of our own members, and I think his name's Uni. Or Oni, sorry, if I don't have that correct. I can't, Yubi. I can't remember his name exactly. I'm so sorry, dude. I've got it right in my mind. It's right there. We did a video about it. He has a roadmap to dynamic server meshing, and it completely lays out everything so nicely. It's done by a fan. He's dead on all the facts. Maybe you guys, if you're interested in that, want to learn more about it, can go to the channel, type in dynamic server meshing. I think you can type it in my search bar and you'll see that. And there's a link where you can go through and you can see exactly everything that's been done, things that are being worked on, and things that are done that does it better than the roadmap. It does it better than the roadmap. He did a better job. In fact, I really wish they would hire him to put together the presentation of the roadmap. The new roadmap, it's better than the old one, but this guy, he did such an amazing job.
Exactly what CIG is doing with
What's up, Donnie?
3.12.1. The primary reason they're doing it is because the servers can handle no more. OCS is at its limit. And this is what has huge implications going into 2021. For many of you who have been looking forward to Crusader, the gas giant with its magnificent gas clouds in the Orison landing zone, or even the Aaron Halo, and even, many forget this, the Stanton Star itself, those entities will not be possible until server meshing is done. And according to the roadmap, server meshing is slated to be done sometime at the end of 2021 after iCache. And this is only server meshing in its first form, which is likely to be a static state, meaning that it will not dynamically change its size. And so, the long and short of it is, Star Citizen will be getting no new locations and no new big entity updates in 2021. That means we will not be getting Crusader, the gas giant with its volumetric clouds and Orison landing zone. We will not be getting the Aaron Halo, and we will not be getting a physicalized Stanton Star. Oh, and certainly no Pyro or Nyx system. That's just completely impossible. The soonest we can expect this stuff is probably early 2022, but That's probably being optimistic. But hey guys, I could be completely wrong on this. I have been wrong before. Having said, I'm pretty sure I'm right, and many of you who've been following Star Citizen probably feel that in your gut. But before you go ahead and sell your account and join the Star Citizen Refund subreddit, there are a couple things you should keep in mind. First of all, places don't necessarily make content better in Star Citizen. It's the things that you can do in the game. What I mean by that is that events are actually a lot more engaging and interesting for a community than a place to visit that has not much going on for it. And so I think the fact that they're adding an event in place of Delamar is actually a pretty good thing. Further, and this is even better news, CIG have said that they plan on making new events for pretty much every patch going into the future, which will keep us, I think, engaged in these big 3-month patch cycles. But it's not all doom and gloom for the patches either.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I agree with his assessment on not being able to see Elysion or even a new system. I'm under the personally, something in me tells me that we're going to see a new system. Something in me tells me that we're going to see a new system. I could be wrong, but I don't think I necessarily agree with Morphologis' assessment of that. We'll see. Only time will tell.
Either. While we might not be getting any new big locations, there is a lot of stuff that they can update that has nothing to do with the server's resources. What do I mean? Well, here's just a small little list. We've got engineering tier 1, salvage tier 1, hacking tier 1, bounty hunting improvements.
Yeah. And the content is not just dependent upon the, this is the other thing that gets to me too as well, Jeff, is like the content really is not just dependent upon the developer. Yes, it's important that they put some type of, missioning in it. It's important that they have gameplay elements like salvaging and engineering and the things that we're seeing here that are going to be put into the game. Those things are very important, obviously. I've always been of the mind, I guess it's because I'm a very big MMO dude and I love playing with other people. I've always been under the impression that players provide content much more than the developers do as far as events and things that can be done in the game, things that you can do with the help of the design of the game and the actual game mechanics that are given to us by the developers, of course. But the things that we're seeing with Atmo esports and the things that where people are actually creating their own events and having their own good times with other people, which is dependent upon server player count, which goes right back to what we were talking about, why servers and stability and stability is the word that we're going to be pushing this year. Stability is very important. It's very important because that ties right into, content. Being able to have more people on gives you more people to run into, gives you more things to do. Oh my God, there's people everywhere I look. Boom, content. That's another thing that I think a lot of people don't really make the connection of. I think a lot of people dismiss it and they think that it's always going to have to be coming from Cloud Imperium. That's kind of a very, very suck on the nipple type thing. You know what I'm saying? Like give me everything. I want to suck every single drop of milk from you. No, like you have to grow up. You have to actually get outside the confines of the boob that's above you and you have to do other things. No, I cannot make that noise
medical
again.
Gameplay tier 1, FPS and ship radar improvements, missile system improvements, hauling improvements such as with volatile cargo for smaller cargo ships so they can finally be profitable, more varied missions for better reputation,
right, Jeff,
and a better reputation system with a Mobi-Glass app that shows us our reputation with all the different orgs, improving the law system, which isn't great right now, especially with the prison system, and improving the prison system itself, improving and polishing the UI interface, including getting rid of that god-awful map that we have for Stanton and replacing it with something that's actually usable, better UI for ship fitting and player fitting, physicalized inventory because that depends on iCache and not server resources, remembering where you logged on and off with iCache, so no more 30k losing your entire load events, better planet tech with rivers, volumetric clouds, and perhaps even...
I personally love when I lose my entire load. Is that not appropriate? Shouldn't have said that, sorry.
Terrain deformation, dynamic weather and rain cloud cover, outpost improvements, dynamic NPC encounters, and bug fixing and polish, and finally, of course, ships. Always more ships. So what I'm saying here, guys, is yeah, it's an absolute bummer that we're not getting some of these really cool locations in the game this year.
Oh,
but
the
keep this in
talk,
mind.
yeah.
What we're missing from the game right now aren't more big, beautiful locations. What we're missing is gameplay. And gameplay is not something that requires a whole lot of server resources as compared to a gigantic location with tens of thousands of entities. So, with all the things that I've listed, we've got a lot to look forward to this year. And of course, none of this really affects their ability to finish Squadron 42 at some point this year, hopefully to release at the end of this year, but more realistically, probably at the beginning of 2022. Squadron 42 is always
I think if you're subbed, you can, Red.
So I hope you guys feel better at the end of this video. I know it was a bit of a downer halfway through, but as you can see, there is still a lot
So, okay, good video. Overall, good video. I don't agree with a few things, but the factual information on server meshing and everything that's happening as far as Delamar's being took out is pretty spot on. So, good job, Morphologis, on that. Really, I liked the analysis done at the very beginning. I disagree with not being able to see Elysian and a new system till maybe 2022. I think maybe one or the other is going to happen, or maybe both, before the end of the year. But we shall see. We shall see. I think it will happen sometime around CitizenCon, personally, if that's to happen. Like Jeff said, a really good point is it's not really about places. And I agree with him. It's not really about places. It's about like the content. It's about, but I also think that the content isn't solely put on, the developer. I think a lot of times, like the more people, the more people you play with, having those times is content together. So, I say Elysian. That's how I refer to it. It's just my dialect. That's how I say it, Soviet. I don't know how you say it in Russia, Soviet, but you say Orzan. It's very harsh in Soviet and motherland. It's very harsh the way you say. I'm just calling it Oreo, says Donnie. I remember when I used to do reviews on ships and like the Scythe, right? And I used to call it Scythe, and everybody was like, "It's not Scythe, it's Scythe." I'm like, no, it's Scythe. That's what I'm calling it. That's what I've decided to call it. I've made a clear decision on how I'm going to pronunciate things. All right, thanks for watching. I'll put this link down here. Don't worry, stream's going to continue. Don't worry. This is just going to go to the YouTube channel, and I will obviously put a link down here to Morphologis' video. I think he did a really good job on this. Good job, Morph.